This is Cronkite News.
Coming up, the latest update in the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, including how local bars are treating social distancing.
We don't have the power to change every heart and mind.
The Justice and Policing Act is making its way through Congress. Plus, we have an update on the news found in NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage.
Cronkite News starts now.
Welcome to this Cronkite News update. I'm Misha Jones. Arizona's surge of COVID-19 cases and hospitalizations continues. Arizona has become a national hotspot for the coronavirus since Governor Doug Ducey lifted stay-at-home restrictions in May. Cases have steadily risen throughout the state, and a daily increase of more than 3,000 cases has been reported every day of the past week. With case numbers rising, Vice President Mike Pence still plans to travel to Arizona, as well as other coronavirus hotspots, to get a ground report. Despite the surge of cases nationwide, Pence seemed to be happy with the progress being made.
The reality is we're in a much better place with the efforts President Trump mobilized at the federal level. We slowed the spread. We flattened the curve. We saved lives.
The vice president also noted that even with this progress, more work is still necessary to combat the spread of the virus. While Governor Doug Ducey has not made a statewide order requiring people to wear masks or face coverings in public, 75% of the state's population is under such an order from local governments. He also expects cases to continue rising in July and August if people don't take more preventative measures. Governor Doug Ducey listed 8 Old Town Scottsdale bars and restaurants during Thursday's news conference that are being investigated for not promoting social distancing. During his update, Ducey said the Arizona Department of Liquor Licensing Control had sent final notices to comply to Riot House, Bottled Blonde, Patty's, Casa Amigos, El Jefe, International, Maya Day Club, and Hi-Fi, calling these businesses bad actors. Not only is the Department of Liquor investigating these businesses, but the city of Scottsdale charged Riot House with a Class 1 misdemeanor for failing to enforce its own safety and health policy. The charge could carry a fine up to $20,000 under state law.
This isn't about money. This is about health and safety of our staff, of our customers, and of the community. This age group that is being talked about and the spikes that are happening, this is also an age group that lives together, that goes to coffee houses together, of course goes to bars and restaurants together. So is that the sole reason? We don't know, and we can't sit here and say that's the sole reason, but we do know that we have that population, and that's why we wanted to voluntarily close and see what we could do.
Drust said they took exhaustive measures to ensure customer safety by training staff and trying to enforce social distancing. Riot House Hospitality closed the doors to their establishments yesterday. The Arizona Diamondbacks organization confirmed multiple positive COVID-19 cases. The organization released a statement confirming 1 minor league coach, multiple minor league players, and 1 member of the D-backs roster all tested positive. Those who tested positive were asymptomatic. All teams must follow safety procedures from a player manual that puts procedures into practice to prioritize player safety. Players and staff who test positive can't travel with the team or be back in the building until they test negative and are asymptomatic. Doctor of Sports Medicine Grant Padley of Toka at Banner Health explains protocols for the MLB for a positive COVID test.
The recommendations that have been there are, the facility was shut down, and this was across MLB, and then cleaned by a professional cleaning the facility, certify that it was clean, and then slowly resume back. But still having limited people in the building, having a negative test, typically two negative tests, 1 to 2 weeks apart before athlete can return. And monitoring close contacts that the athlete had.
GM Mike Hazen said that those who tested positive are quarantining and following proper safety protocols. Hazen said the organization is awaiting nearly 100 test results, including players, staff, and even his own test. He said he's hopeful this will help slow the spread and the season will continue in late July. Apple is temporarily closing 32 stores in 5 states experiencing new spikes in coronavirus. The 6 stores in Arizona are closed. It's also closed stores in Texas, Florida, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Apple temporarily shuttered all of its stores nationally in March and began a phased reopening in May. The company has said it will continue to monitor local conditions for employee and customer safety. For stores that remain open, Apple is requiring customers to wear face coverings. Apple stores are also doing temperature checks and limiting capacity. Governor Doug Ducey pledged $270 million to Arizona public schools. The money will allow for remote learning, expanding broadband internet, and providing extra help to districts in need. Jake Holzer explains how this money could be used.
With COVID-19 cases rising in Arizona, schools and parents find themselves faced with the decision of whether or not to have students in class or continue with distance learning. Traditionally, Arizona relies on physical attendance to calculate school funding. Doug Ducey's new executive order exempts schools from most of these financial penalties. Erin Hart is the Chief Operating Officer of Expect More Arizona, a nonpartisan collaborative group committed to bettering education in Arizona. She says this aid package is the right move.
What this executive order did was give a peace of mind to them for thinking about their attendance, thinking about where their kids go to school, whether it's in person or online. And it's effectively going to ensure that their funding stays pretty similar to where they've been in the past, which is a big deal. I think schools were really worried about drops in enrollment. They're really worried about how they were going to fund everything, especially with uncertainty about whether kids were going to be online or in person or a blend of the two. But now there's some certainty with what the governor and the superintendent have laid out. So I think it's going to be really helpful for schools.
Hart says that giving schools the freedom of not being penalized because of a drop in in-person enrollment allows them to give parents and students the choice for this coming school year.
So let's schools then give that flexibility to families so then they can choose what option is best for their child. And schools are working on their plans now and starting to share those with families and their communities. So it's great that schools and families might have some options to consider.
Holly Arnold is the parent of an incoming Valley kindergartner. She was initially going to send her daughter back to school, but in light of the circumstances is now weighing her options.
Now with the kind of explosion in cases here, it's a little nerve-wracking. We have to really decide if we do want to send her in person or, start out online, which I also don't really know how that will work very well for a kindergartner. Trying to balance keeping my daughter, my family, and the community safe with just making sure she has the education and social education that she needs. It's a tough call right now.
Jake Holter, Cronkite News.
Additional funding will also go to the Arizona Teachers Academy to help with the teacher shortage, grants for innovative programs, and money for tutoring. The House passed the Justice and Policing Act late Thursday.
The yeas are 236. The nays are 181. The bill is passed.
House Democrats passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act along hard party lines. The bill bans no-knock warrants in federal drug cases, prohibits racial profiling, reforms qualified immunity for law enforcement, establishes a national database tracking police misconduct, and bans chokeholds, classifying them as a civil rights violation.
It includes reforms to combat racial profiling and right injustices that exist in America today. The ability to end racism in our country is beyond the reach of Congress. We don't have the power to change every heart and mind, but we do have the power to change the law, to make it more just, to combat structural racism through measurable, meaningful reforms. Change starts here today.
Republican Congressman Andy Biggs released this reaction. If local police departments need reforms, communities should make tweaks as needed. Congress has no constitutional authority to interfere with the mechanisms of state and local police agencies. If this bill were to become law, Americans would see fewer officers on the streets, less enforcement of laws, and more anarchy from emboldened criminals. If this bill were to become law, more Americans would enjoy less freedom and security. Now, the bill heads to the Republican-controlled Senate, where it has little chance of making it through. Now for a look at your top 3 trending sports stories today. We're starting things off on the Talladega Superspeedway. NASCAR released photos of the garage pull-down tied into what appeared to be a noose hanging from driver Bubba Wallace's garage. NASCAR President Steve Phelps said, quote, "As you can see from the photo, the noose was real, as was our concern for Bubba." A member of Wallace's crew team discovered the rope and notified the crew chief. NASCAR contacted the FBI to do an investigation. The FBI said the rope was hanging from the garage since October 2019 and was not a hate crime targeted at Wallace. The driver said he's relieved he was not the victim of a hate crime and is thankful for NASCAR's support. Drivers pushed Wallace's car down the track to show solidarity and support for him. Our second story, we're just about 2 weeks away from the United Soccer League restarting. Phoenix Rising FC has been drawn into Group B, consisting of teams mainly from the West Coast. Group B also includes LA Galaxy 2, Las Vegas Lights FC, Orange County SC, and San Diego Loyal SC. The season will be 16 games. Teams will play each team in their group 3 times. Lastly, 24/7 sports station Bonneville Phoenix will deliver round-the-clock coverage for Sun Devil Athletics. Bonneville Phoenix and ASU extended their coverage through the 2024-25 year for Sun Devil football and basketball. The station showcases local talent and ESPN shows for the University, Cardinals, and D-backs. Sun Devil football and basketball fans can continue to expect pregame coverage, live play-by-play broadcasts, and post-game shows. That's it for this edition of Cronkite News. For Arizona news updates throughout the day, follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and find us online at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.